Hey, good evening. Welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. Well, as you know, we've been kind of fostering a couple of kids that were in some need because of their mother dying last year, and the single dad was struggling, so we helped out. So you could call that fostering. We took in two kids. They slept down at Nana's. They're neighbours, so they can go home anytime they like, and did. And so they kind of lived between us and their home. They were not disconnected completely, and so you've actually been looking at, if you've been following the videos on adoption and helping with kids, especially these two, you'll have been watching how lovely the little girl that came, and she only weighed 12 kilos when she came to us, and a few days ago she reached I think it was 20 kilos, Beth?
Yeah.
It was 20 kilos. So a huge step forward, and Lovely was actually declared. They have a way of registering here in the Philippines, and she was a malnourished, what they call here a malnourished child, in that she hadn't been getting, even if she was getting a lot of food, it wasn't the right kind, and it was what she needed. Well, we took her in, and we unearthed somewhere in that tiny little body an appetite for enough food to, as I always put it, enough food to kill an elephant. So even the waitress at the restaurant that we always go to, Vidasto, remarked on the amazing amount of food that our little girl Lovely could shift. Well, they yesterday, it seems a long time ago now, but I think it was yesterday, they decided that they wanted, they were missing their siblings and family, and so they hadn't been home for, I don't know, maybe a week, Lovely a little bit longer, and they decided that they were going to go home. So off they went, and they came back today, and they got the rest of their stuff, and they went home. So that's kind of the title, whatever the title was that ended up with under Beth's control and editing. My title for this video would be Fostering and the Joys and the Heartache, because it's very easy to get very attached to the children that you take in just to help you, and that's what fostering does. When people foster, and I recommended that, I said when I was talking about adoption, our friend who is in charge, hands-on, is in charge of an orphanage. When we were trying to adopt, and we'd been through the initial forum, what Philippines call here, they call it the forum, and you go and you find out what's involved with adopting. And of course what we found out was that it was not going to work for us. For one thing, my age works against me. For another, being a foreigner works against me. Now, before you start, you know, I know that the current way is to accuse everybody and everything of being racist. It's not a question of racist. You know, ideally it would be better in many ways if any child that needs to be adopted would go to parents where both of the parents are of her own nationality. That's so you know, a Philippine kid would go to Filipinos. I know that it works very well across the board, you know, for adoptions where they go from one country to another. As I mentioned, a dear friend of mine, his daughter, his grown daughter, had wanted to adopt a child. Very difficult to adopt a child in America, and even though the paperwork was huge, she and her husband were able to adopt a little Chinese girl, and that little child has responded incredibly to being in that American family, and so it does work. And I've got to be honest, Lovely certainly came in and captured our hearts. Now, the thing was that these children were not strangers to us. They didn't arrive on the door and introduce themselves. They're neighbours, as I said, so we know them very well. And these two come from a family that we built a house for about maybe a little more than 2 years ago. We found out about them when we were giving mattresses away, or food. We were giving some food away at a place that because it's so out of the way, it's on top of the next mountain, and we called it the secret village in the mountains, and that was our little catchy title for it. And so we went there to give food away, and we saw Lovely's mother, and she was not feeling that good. Turned out later that she did have heart problems, and she was in this tiny little house which they lived in, husband and wife lived in, with 5 children, and it was a tiny little place, and it was perched right on the edge of the mountain. So we made up our mind that we were going to help, and she was lying, you know, she was just lying basically on a stripped bamboo floor, I think with large pieces of cardboard. So of course we came back as soon as we could with a mattress. So our first gift to that family was a mattress, and then later we were able to raise the money to build them a house, and that's what we did. Regrettably, the mother died, as I say, last year, but we were able to handle the funeral costs and get the family a television. Not my choice, but the television is a popular source of entertainment, free entertainment here, so that was it. So we knew these kids very well. Plus, for the last 4 years, they've been, when we went to church, they would be standing outside when the truck rolled up, and they would be there to greet us. So we became very close. Well, as usual, I'm making a long story out of this, but they started to miss their home. They got homesick, so they went home yesterday. Now, since the loss of the mother, the loss of his wife, the father has met someone else, and this lady also has either 2 or 3 children of her own, and she and the father of Lovely are getting along very well, and it looks like they've visited the house, they've met LJ. She said that it went very well. Her siblings, the other 3 children who have been taken care of between the father and the grandmother, who lives very close by. And apparently it all seems to be going very well. So LJ decided for the two of them, for her and Lovely, that they would go home, which they did yesterday, and they came back today. We met them on their way when we were coming back from meeting our visitors. We met them walking home on the way back. It's very sad for us. Well, we exchanged a few messages today, and I said, you know, to be sure. It's very funny, really. It's one of those funny things that when you're talking about how being married to a Filipina can be sometimes. But I said to Beth, please tell LJ that Daddy Terence loves Lovely very much, and he would love her to come and see him. And then I get her phone. Obviously, I'm really, LJ is not 100% in her English, so I'm telling Beth so that she'll tell LJ in Visayan. No such luck. She's relayed the message in English. I said, well, I speak English. I could have written that myself. Well, it seems at the moment, and we're kind of keeping fingers crossed, that Lovely is going to come back tomorrow. LJ will stay there, but as I say, we're neighbours. If at any point either of those kids wanted to just walk home, they could have done it. When the mother was still alive, they used to walk up, 3 or 4 kids would walk up, and what they would do is they would get a sack and they would collect the carabao poop, and it would be used for manure, fertilizer. So they used to come up, and it was a way that they knew that if they came up and they had a sack of manure, we would give them 100 pesos or whatever it was that Beth gave them. So they always knew that there was a source of cash if they wanted, which we were very happy to do. So I am hoping that she'll come back tomorrow. That's why I say on fostering, which is what I count what we've been doing. We took a little tiny kid who actually is 9 years old, but looks, I think you'll agree, if you look at the pictures, if you look at the still pictures on Facebook, I think you'll agree that she only looks about 5. She's a tiny little thing, perfect, beautiful child, but she only looks tiny. So getting her beefed up a little bit was high on the agenda, and in doing so we took her everywhere with us, and she is a lot of you commented on how she needs to change her behavior. Yes she does, and we were working on that. I know very well about trying to help kids to behave in a way which will prepare them for behaving in adult society. You know, the rules are pretty plain. You know, you respect each other, you respect, for a child, you respect your elders. Very much the case in the Philippines. For me, growing up as a kid, the idea of respecting adults was was a must, you know. And if I talk back to my mother or father, you know, there'd be a reason to regret that. And my mother was quick with a hand, and I'd learned to respect. In fact, let me see, the Victorian saying was that children should be seen and not heard. That was the popular saying. Hey, children should be seen and not heard. That's what my mother would say, something like that. So we knew prior to them going home, we knew that there was work to do, and we were already into that, and then it coincided with you know, having to be told, no, you can't behave like that. Then they left and went home, and now LJ has relayed that message on to Lovely, and Lovely knows that we miss her very much, you know. She, whatever you may think about her behaviour, she is such a wonderful little kid, and she lights the place up. So everybody loves her in spite of how she behaved. She talked to Manorado, and she made some observations about Manorado, and Manorado said, you have an adult brain, but your behaviour is childish. That was his observation, which he told to her. Of course, she didn't accept that. Well, I'll be happy to report to you tomorrow in a video that she has come back and is still able to do what she wants. We respected their decision to go home. LJ texted us from her home in the mountains, the secret village, and she said that she was missing her siblings, and that she felt guilty because they've been here. In effect, she's saying that they've been here having a good life, and we have tried to treat them very, very well. We still only live modestly ourselves, but compared to what they were experiencing at home, this was pretty good, you know. They were eating in a really nice restaurant, very good food, and we tried to make life nice for them. So Lovely has decided that she would like to come back, apparently. With the difference between the cultural gap between me as a foreigner and the Filipino, when I hear these things, I say I'll look forward to seeing how that unfolds, and that's what I'm saying here. Bert said that LJ had said that Lovely was going to come back tomorrow. Whether she will come back and strike out and come back here on her own, we'll see how that goes. Of course, she's not the only child here. We've got Bibi and we've got Taliklik, and then there's 3 boys of Jessica and James who absolutely adored Lovely, and they're all around that. Well, they're younger than Lovely, but they're about the same size because of Lovely being malnourished. So it's a little human interest story, and it reflects what foster parents must go through, hence my title. So thanks for looking in. I'll let you know what happens. Bye for now.